Hello, Facebook and Instagram. This is Brittany Bowles back with another chapter of my book, Finding Starlight. This is the unpublished, unsigned story of my life as told through the lens of a past life regression session that really happened. I've been reading it one chapter, 1 week at a time in hopes that I would get discovered or signed by the time I finished it. Tonight we are on chapter 27, and there are a total of 30 chapters. So I'm not really sure that the whole discovery thing is going to happen during this book, but that's okay because this is a huge accomplishment personally, having written the book, healed myself 30 times over in sharing these chapters with you, discussing with people how much my story has affected or inspired them to heal or grow or share, or just feeling like they're not alone in life. So I do feel like it's been a success. And we have 3 chapters left, so who knows what will happen. Before I get into this chapter, I want to say, as just sort of a reminder, that this book was written years ago. So this book was written in 2013, or the setting of this book is in 2013, I should say, the past life regression session. So a lot of things in my life have changed since then, and that's the point of becoming. That's the point of launching into a healing journey and really becoming to know ourselves and our power and what we really want in life. So I don't regret any of the experiences in this book. I have a lot of love for all of the people that are in this book to this day, and I maintain relationships even though they've changed. Particularly the one that I get into in this chapter has changed significantly. I think that it's important to just understand that we do change and grow, and that's okay, and that is what makes us human. So we are literally looking at a snapshot of my entire life as I told it about 7 years ago. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this. And again, as always, be aware of your own triggers. And if you do know anybody in these books, just like have some tact and don't feel like you need to go digging for more information. You're always welcome to reach out to me in private messages or comment your feelings and that kind of thing. I'm here for you and your journey as well. And I'm just here to be candid and tell you the truth of my life as I remember it. That's a lot of disclaimers. So here we go. Chapter 27, Love Like a Mountain, from Finding Starlight by me, Brittany Bowles. Prior chapters are available on my website, brittnybowles.com, or on my Facebook page under videos. Chapter 27, Love Like a Mountain. The clouds shimmered into a vision of snowy woods. It was Thanksgiving Day, and I was walking with Amber, Emily, and Emily's family. Coming toward us was a group of people that seemed familiar. A young blonde child, 2 women around my age, and an older couple. That guy kind of looks like Uncle Randy, I said to Amber. Wait, what? No way! I screamed as I started running toward them. They were all there. Nikki, her son, Lisa, and their parents. We leaped into each other's arms, hugging, laughing, crying. They had conspired with Emily and Amber to drive through the night and surprise me in New Hampshire. Your family came here to New Hampshire for Thanksgiving? How wonderful, Katrina exclaimed. It was perfect timing, too. I didn't know how any of them could have known what it would mean to me to be surrounded with love just then. I wondered if Matt had reached out to Amber after our conversation. They were friends, after all. But I just had to thank the universe for bringing me what my heart needed. Confirmation that I still mattered. Oh, you matter. You matter indeed, Katrina said, cryptically. On the cloud, it was nighttime. Amber and I were curled up in my bed in a room that was way too cold, again. Our breath puffed out visibly from our mouths. I had forgotten to turn on the heater when we left earlier. I breathed deeply, closing my eyes and going to that yoga place of peacefulness and joy. I saw the yellow Caribbean sun and allowed its warmth to pool inside my breast. Breathing steadily, I grew the warmth until it radiated around my entire body. Opening my eyes, I saw that the shimmering sunlight was now covering myself, my sister, and the whole bed. "You did it again!" Katrina clapped. "You made a golden light ball." "I sure did," I agreed. It was rare those days, but I guess my sister brought it out in me. I did it just like I remembered the healer teaching, and it worked. Moving me forward, Katrina asked, "So your family surprise was just what you needed to snap out of it? Or did something else happen?" "Something else entirely," I assured her. "I fell in love." "With Jeremy?" she asked. "Yes, with Jeremy," I said. "My husband." "Of course," she said. "Tell me about meeting him." "We met at a bar," I admitted. "It's sort of silly, but we met, and I noticed right away the intensity of his eyes, probing and deep. We danced to some bar band, drinking and talking a little in between. We had a good time that night. It was the most fun I'd had in a while. I wanted to give him my number, pretty sure that he was interested in me too, but he left. He hardly even said goodbye." "He didn't!" she exclaimed on my behalf. "Yeah, he did. He just left." I thought, well, that was fun. And I went home myself. A few days later, I got a Facebook message from him asking me to go to a concert in Maine. It was a Ryan Montbleu show, and I knew I had to say yes. Not only did I want to go on a date with this guy anyway, but Ryan Montbleu was a songwriter I had come to know on St. Croix. His music is thoughtful, deep, inspiring, and he's a great guy besides. I figured that meant Jeremy had to be some of those things as well, right? I had to laugh at myself. Emily did not want me to go on this date at all, I confessed. She said that it was crazy to drive that far with a stranger. "But you went anyway," Katrina said with her sly smile. "I did, and it was the best first date of all time," I recalled. "Can we see it?" she asked, and I agreed. The date began with an hour of driving in his car while we listened to music and talked. The cloud showed us snippets of conversation. "I want to partner with the Red Cross someday," he said, "to provide disaster relief, like clean water and power to third world countries. But I don't just want to stop there. I think we need to provide education and support around these solutions. Just digging a well and leaving never works, in my experience." "Have you dug wells in third world countries?" I asked, impressed. "I have," he answered. "I've traveled through most of Central America on my own, and with my job I've spent time in Africa and Asia on water and power projects." "I want to go all these places," I said. A swirl of color, and we were dancing in a crowd of people. He twirled me around, and I had a huge grin, never taking my eyes off of him. At the end of the song, I spun into him and pecked him on the lips. His eyes opened wide with shock, and I danced away, smiling. Now, a little later, we were at the beach at night, climbing down a short rock face near a picturesque New England lighthouse. The waves crashed on the boulders beneath us, sending spray into the night that was lit by the reflection of the moon. We sat in a crevice and watched the water, talking quietly. A policeman shone his flashlight above us from the edge of the parking lot and called, "Is anyone here?" To Jeremy, I said, "You better kiss me before they find us." And he did. Katrina said it certainly was a romantic first date. The cloud moved ahead to another day. We were driving down a snowy woodland road, holding hands. Jeremy was saying, "When you leave for India," I looked sharply at him and said, "When I leave? What do you mean?" He replied, "Well, I guess I'm asking if you figured out your dates yet, if you know when you're leaving to go to India." I sat dumbfounded, staring at him, and replied, "I'm not leaving. Not anymore." "What do you mean you're not leaving?" he asked, just as slowly. "Jeremy," I said firmly, "I'm in love with you. You know that. You really think I'm going to leave?" He smiled like he wasn't sure whether to believe me. "You don't have to stay here just because of me," he said, and then added hurriedly, "Obviously, I don't want you to go, not if I'm being selfish, but you don't need to change your whole life just for me." "Jeremy," I said, trying to be firm and patient, "my whole life has changed now because of you. We fell in love. That's far more powerful than some urge to go to India." "But," he argued, "I don't want to ruin your future." "Oh my God," I said, exasperated. "You are my future now." We kissed, and the cloud cleared once more, leaving me to say to Katrina, "Yeah, we fell in love pretty fast. It felt so right. I couldn't believe he thought I was still leaving. That's so him, though, to be selfless about it." "What was it about Jeremy that made you change your life?" she asked. "Why did you fall in love with him?" Before I could speak, the cloud took up my cause. Another reel of poetry scrawled, "Your face in the morning, lined by nothing but the sun, and that stubble that says, 'I worked for this life I have for you.' Your eyes glinting like a river in the fall, golden and deep, promising a rich tomorrow. Full of giggles and magical fingertips, your heartbeat beneath a chest plated with iron and love makes mine swell, and my eyes become an ocean, and the moon our purpose." I smiled, remembering the piece. "His solidarity," I answered. "We were inseparable from the first date on. He pulled me into him. I had never felt so off-kilter as I did with him, like I wasn't ever sure he liked me as much as I liked him. I was intimidated for reasons beyond me. I'm not easy to intimidate, but he did it. Then there was his steadfastness. He has a son and 2 great-grandparents that he cared for. Jeremy is the most steady, faithful person I've ever known. In that way, he was my opposite. He lived in the same house he grew up in, and yet he still traveled the world. There was this polarity in him that made me feel grounded and expansive at the same time. He felt like the mountains. We talked about where we'd go in the world, everywhere, and what we would do. He shared my passion for nonprofit work, even down to the dream of wanting one day to start his own. He made me feel powerful, like I could do anything. Not just the lofty believing in me way, but in a very solid and determined, matter-of-fact, physically supportive way. Though I had never wanted my own kids, Jeremy was such a good father that he made me believe in parenting again. And I decided that if I was ever going to have a baby, it would be with him, I told her. "Well, that's quite the testimony to his character," she said. "I should hope so," I replied as the cloud moved to a different, very important day. I did marry him after all. Behind Emily's dad's house in the middle of the woods was a meadow. We'd erected a yellow and white striped tent, a blow-up bouncy castle, and an entire festival of love to celebrate coming together. Simple antique wooden chairs made rows in an aisle in the grass. Glitter sparkled everywhere, from crystals hanging on trees to bottles decorated with glitter on the tables. A late August sun cast its warmth and light over the field. Our friends and family sat waiting for me. "You look like a princess," Troy, dressed in a gray suit and blue aviator sunglasses, said to me as the wedding party assembled. I smiled and wiped a tear from my eye. My dress was white except for red petticoats peeking through layers of skirts and a lone red ribbon lacing my corset along the back. White and red jewels decorated my eyes and tattoos, which showed under upswept curls and a handmade pearl necklace. Troy was right, I thought, seeing the scene unfold on the cloud. I did look like a princess. Troy and my godson blasted the crowd with bubbles instead of flowers. My sister and Nikki preceded me down the aisle. Emily's dad presided over the ceremony. Jeremy and I exchanged wooden rings and planted an oak tree. Emily played guitar and sang our special, albeit somewhat ridiculous, wedding song. Jeremy and I danced to bands made up of friends. The sun went down and the cloud became a night sky. When it was over, I said to Katrina, "We had the wedding of my dreams. A festival of love, I called it. Everyone said how beautiful it was, though I have to tell you, if I were to do it again, I think that I would elope." She laughed, understanding, as only another woman could, the work and stress of pulling off a wedding like that. "Troy was just the sweetest," she said. I agreed. He really was, all blonde hair and admiration. He had a blast that day. I'll never forget how he looked at me when I came down in my dress all done up. "You look like a princess." It reminded me of the conversation with Rasta Paul, and I thought, today is the day that I become a queen. "And is that what happened?" she asked. "Did you become the queen Rasta Paul envisioned, honoring yourself and all of that?" "No," I said. It didn't take long for the wedding bliss to wear off, and for me to start wondering who I was and what in the hell I was supposed to be doing with my life again. Always, it's the "who am I" story that sets me off. This time, I was wallowing in self-pity because Jeremy and I had started our nonprofit, but it was going terribly. He decided that we would work in Haiti, which is about the most difficult place on the planet to do aid work. I learned Creole, I trained volunteers, I started a legal nonprofit, everything. I did everything full-time for that organization, and everything was the hardest. I can't even begin to tell you how many tears I cried and fights we had about it. For years, I had thought my purpose in life was to run my own nonprofit, to help people like I had been helped so many times. But it was such a fight. I shook my head. Katrina said, "A lot of times when people do work like that, it's actually more about themselves than it is about the people they're trying to help." That made me feel defensive all over again, and I said so. I don't think it was about me. I worked hard to make it about the Haitian community. We partnered with another organization that had been working down there for over 10 years. And believe it or not, I was the only person who bothered to learn Creole, the language of the Haitian people. We hired Haitians to do all the work, and we paid them fairly. I helped the school set up their own school board comprised only of locals, and I taught them how to make a strategic plan for themselves. I trained them in first aid, gave them clean water, taught them how to keep it that way, and even connected them to a different local Haitian school to continue their own community development. So no, I don't think it was about me. She did not seem bothered by the force of my indignation. She just sat waiting for me to continue, and I thought I was done, but her expression gave me pause. "Okay," I conceded. "I get what you're saying. I saw a lot of things wrong with the way international aid work is done. And even with the mindfulness I employed and all the Creole speaking in the world under my belt, I recognized that I couldn't change I recognized that I could not change the systems of oppression that were the root cause of the issue. Yet I persisted. Why? I guess to prove that I could make a difference. And yeah, that was about me. Where did that persistence get you? She asked, breaking her silence. Nowhere, I admitted. It got me frustrated. It got me into endless fights with my board of directors and my husband. It exhausted me. I was drained. Sure, we helped a rural community in Haiti with some basic needs, community development, but in the end, it was not even a chip off of the tip of the clean water crisisberg, and I ended up more lost than when I started the whole thing. Ugh. More lost, she repeated. Meaning you became depressed? Yes, I sure did. I was drinking a bottle of wine at least every night. I was having nightmares again, mostly about my mom. I was convinced that this was it, my downfall. I was becoming my mother, and this is how it would end. Jeremy was worried for me and not super happy about the Haiti situation either. Finally, I reached out for help in a pretty weird way. There was a place in town that claimed to restore chi. I thought, sure, my chi could use some help, and I made an appointment. How do they go about restoring one's chi? She asked. It was just one lady named Kelly who ran it. She was a very magical person. She was beautiful, I was going to say fairy, but since I was talking to one and didn't know if she knew that I knew that she was a fairy, I stumbled over my words and blushed. Katrina smiled and filled in the blank for me. Like a fairy? I laughed. Yes, like a fairy. I wasn't sure if I know that I appear as a fairy to you, she finished. Well, that's one way to phrase it, I thought. But I said, yeah. You'd be surprised what I am able to see and know during these experiences, she said. It's very different than the way you experience it, I'm sure. But I have my gifts too, and one of them is to be able to join you on this journey. So yes, she confirmed, I'm aware that your particular magical perspective allows you to perceive an aspect of myself that is at once fairy and woman. I wanted to ask how she felt about that, but she supplied the answer without my asking. I'm tickled that you see me as a fairy. We smiled at each other, and then I continued my story. Kelly, the other fairy, I said, had what I can only describe as a magic machine. It was developed by this wizardy scientist inventor guy from Europe and contained tens of thousands of vibrational frequencies. It generates this unique resonance of all of the herbs, sounds, colors, vitamins. I don't even know how to explain it. It's amazing. That sounds amazing, she agreed. Oh, it was. Very intriguing process, really, and one that I'm not even sure I ever truly understood. What was a session like? Katrina asked. I answered, sessions took place in a massage room where I laid down and relaxed on the table while she hooked me up to the machine. She said that most people didn't really feel anything at all or felt a little bit of heat or vibration. Katrina was nodding along like, yes, this sounds familiar. I went on. I tend to be pretty sensitive to energy work, so I wasn't surprised to feel a whole lot of movement, I guess you could say. I felt my chakras spinning, my ears were popping, and energy was just fizzing all around me like an electrical current. Memories and emotions came up through me, so much that I even cried at one point. I started thinking about my mother, remembering the nightmares. When Kelly came back in after the treatment was done, she asked how I was doing, and I burst into tears. She told me to lay back down so she could help me cut cords with my mom. I had never done cord cutting before, so it was a strange and powerful experience, I explained. The cloud showed the scene. Me laying on a massage table and Kelly calling on archangels for help. She held a sword in her hand, an actual sword. "Oh!" I exclaimed to Katrina. "That wasn't there the first time." "Wasn't it, though?" she asked as the cloud went on its merry way, showing more and more. Kelly held a sword made of white light. The room filled with entities. My guides from the fire forgiveness ceremony were there, along with many I didn't recognize. I saw the hint of antlers, some angel wings, and a whole bunch of hooded, light beings. On the table, I was covered in a shifting aura. Violet and silver were predominant colors, as always, but there were stringy shadows interlaced and entwined around me like a net. With this sword and the power of Archangel Michael, I hereby cut the cords binding Brittany to all entities and persons who do not serve her greatest good, Kelly intoned. She waved the sword over and under me, and to my surprise, it clashed in bursts like lightning as it struck each shadowy wisp. Like tendrils of smoke, the loose strands floated into the air to be blasted by the collective force of the spirits gathered in the room. Each one exploded or imploded into flecks of rainbow like light refracting through a crystal until the smoke was gone and my body was once again clear of the dark net. "Pretty sure I didn't see all of that the first time around," I repeated to Katrina when the scene cleared. "What did you see?" she asked. "Nothing, really," I said. I felt fuzzy, confused, and heavy. Kelly and I talked for a while afterward. She told me about a shift happening in the universe, and that more and more people were waking up to a higher dimension. She explained that major cosmic events were taking place that were changing the energetic structure of humanity. Light, she said, was pouring into all of us on a cellular level and clearing out our density. She said that people would no longer be able to carry pain and suffering like in the past, but that it had to come up and out to be cleared away. She said to expect more tumult before a sense of peace. Katrina was nodding excitedly along with me, as though this was perfectly commonplace information. Apparently, she was very familiar with wizard-invented magic machines and higher dimensions and a universal shift in consciousness. "Did it work?" she asked. "I stopped having nightmares about my mom," I said. "And if Kelly was right about stuff needing to come up and out, then hell yeah, it worked." I was still in a bad place after that. Processing, I guess. Jeremy was still worried, saying he didn't trust things like that. "Things like the magic machine?" she clarified. "Yeah, he has always been leery of anything spiritual. He's not that hard on me about it, though. Usually," I said. "It's a good thing you chose your Jeremy, then," she said. "It is," I agreed, though marrying him threw me into a total panic about becoming my mother. Yeah, I'd stopped with the nightmares after the magic machine, but here I was, in my 20s, married to the perfect guy, and a total mess. I was sure something terrible was going to happen, just like it did to my mom, and that I would lose my sense of self. I read somewhere that depression is selfishness. It's being so deeply in a state of obsession with yourself that you forget to think about anyone or anything else. Meanwhile, the world goes on while you wallow. And that's exactly what was happening to me. I was wallowing in what I perceived as the failure of my organization, wondering who I was and what I had to offer the world, and feeling lost in life. Meanwhile, the world did go on, and it took someone else's death to snap me out of it. That's the end of chapter 27. Thank you for sitting with me through that. That was a long one. We have 2 chapters left to go before we're done with the book. Chapter 28 is called The Labyrinth, and I will share it with you next time. In the meantime, thank you so much for being on this journey with me. And if you're just tuning in to the book, there is a 20 chapter recap up on my website, BrittanyBowles.com, to catch you up really quickly if you're sort of in the TLDR club, too long didn't read club. Anyway, in the meantime, maybe I will see you out there. Please stay safe. Please stay well. As always, thank you. As always, my heart goes out to everybody who is becoming right now and everyone who is standing strong in who they are and what they believe, even when the system feels like you could never even chip the tip of the iceberg. I know that we are changing everything. This is it, the revolution. So thank you for being part of that as well as this. I love you. I'll see you next time.